What up, what up, what up, world? It's your boy J Star back again, man. So we got the late first look right here, man, video for the week 14 slate. I think I'm gonna try to put together the top five in this first look all together this time. So I think I'm gonna go over the top five at the end of the video. So stay tuned for that part. But we're gonna get right into this. So we got the Jets and the Buffalo Bills. In this game, I kind of feel like the best picks is gonna be a running back. Just because it looks like I don't know if it's really gonna be raining or anything, but I know the Bills have been running a little bit more lately, and both of these teams' completion percents are very low, man. So it's gonna be a tough battle. I feel like when it comes to passing the ball. So I definitely feel like we looking at Singletary, of course, even down here with what is it, 4,600, like a James Cook, especially in those rivalries, man. It's like at home, it kind of leans to the run a little bit more. As we saw, Buffalo played, the Patriots and lean to the run a little bit more than usual, but I feel like it's because the rivalry are tough matchups. Teams really know you well and know especially your passing routines and type of offensive schemes you like to do there, especially if you're a team that heavily passes. When you kind of go to the run, it kind of throws them a curveball basically. So I would say definitely both of these teams, the run game is kind of where it is, but when it comes to the Jets, I do kind of like, I would say the best play over here would be like Garrett Wilson at 5,900. Where is he at? Okay, right there. 5,900. I like just the way he's been playing lately. 27, 26 fantasy points. Doesn't have to line up with the best cornerbacks on most teams since he plays in the slot most of the time. As you see, he's heavily a part of the passing scheme. And it feels like Buffalo has been giving up some points there too. Wide receivers, especially route running wide receivers that tend to move around in the slot and out wide and stuff like that. Been giving up fantasy points there. So I definitely like Garrett Wilson here. Besides that, there's really nothing else that I would go with. I mean, you could also maybe toss in Conklin or, one of those tight ends, but it's going to be a tough game, like I said, in the passing, but Garrett Wilson does line up with probably the weaker, when it comes to cornerback competition and stuff like that. So definitely feel like he's able to go there. And like I said, other side, I would think the running backs could be in play. For the next game here, Cleveland and Cincinnati, this has been a crazy rivalry right here. I really thought this had to do with Burrow playing, not Burrow, but Baker playing for Cleveland was why Burrow just couldn't beat him, because something about when Baker played him every time it seemed like he turned up. But it's not even that. It's just Cleveland just plays Burrow really hard. So it's like Myles Garrett turns up on defense and gets some sacks, causes fumbles, just havoc, So it's very hard for Burrow, but this is supposed to be another kind of lean on the run game too as well. It's rivalry, home. I would think the home team running backs come through. It just really depends on which one is going to be healthy enough to play. But since they both run like a 4-3 defense, both teams need to establish some type of run and to set up big plays down the field. And I feel like, Cincinnati has been establishing the run pretty well for the last few games, even, when Mixon was there, when Mixon's not there. Perrine has filled in those shoes, but it's all about which one is going to play. I feel like they should be able to establish a run, which could open up some big plays for Chase or Higgins. I feel like is able to go, definitely down the field and hit on something big. I just don't know which exactly receiver I would say is going to do that, because one of them is definitely going to line up with Denzel Ward, and both of these teams are really good completion percent, even higher than the recent game that we just went over. We're looking at 6th in completion percent against the Browns and 2nd completion percent against the Bengals. So it's pretty crazy. It's going to be hard to throw. But like I said, whichever team is able to establish the run, it's basically going to have the big plays open up for them. But besides that, like I said, it's going to be Burrow hasn't beaten Cleveland not one time in his career. So it's a big game for him if he can finally do it. I believe it's probably the 6th time playing them. So he's 0-5, so far. But besides that, like I said, and them not having a tight end, Hurst is out probably for this game. So it's gonna be leaning to the run and throwing to a very tunnel vision of players here with Chase, Higgins, and Boyd. So if you want to do a Burrow stack, it's not shouldn't be so hard to pick the weapons this weekend because you already don't have the tight end anymore. So it's definitely one of those receivers. Maybe possibly two could happen. But like I said, I really feel like it's gonna be the running back, maybe one receiver with that. On the other side, I think Peoples Jones is in play possibly, but Cooper doesn't show up on the road, and it's not even a far travel, but he just some reason can't show up on the road. Deshaun Watson is at quarterback. I would like to see them use David Bell more. I feel like if he was used more with Deshaun Watson being back, he could actually do something good in this game. And like rivalries, seem to go to random receivers like a David Bell hits on a touchdown and a deep shot one at that. Because they try to go to things that you haven't seen so much tape on. So gotta stay tuned to see what happens with him on Friday and things. If he's gonna be able to go is questionable. I think it's only for a thumb injury anyways. He should be able to go, but hopefully he gets used more because he could hit. And it looks like we got Houston and Dallas in this game, man. It's gonna be this is crazy. Like 3 straight games feel like it's like run, 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 run. But yeah, it looks like Pollard is in a good spot. Elliott as well because with the Texans, I know they don't hit every week for running backs. Like it doesn't hit every week because it takes a lot of rushing attempts for you to really hit against them. They are very good at completion percent, so they don't allow you to pass, but you do need to run a lot for your running back to get the fantasy points needed and have a good day. And this is a big week for Pollard and Zeke, basically because they do run a lot. This team they base their whole offense on running. So when you look at this 22, 15, 18, 12, but since Zeke has been back for the last 3 games, we're looking at Zeke on the other side of that, putting up the extra 15, 16, 17. So like 30 attempts and running. So definitely, I feel like both of these backs can do well just because, Zeke comes in for goal line. So it's like it takes 60 yards for, I want to say Pollard to get all the points, that Zeke gets. Like, yes, he can break 2 60 yards or 40-yard carries in this game with Pollard and score a touchdown on one and have over 100 yards and gets that bonus for you. But it's just the fact that Zeke could get 2 goal line rush attempts and in this game and already have 12 points, and then if he puts up these 70 to 90 yards then it's going to be Zeke. So it is like you kind of in like a pick your poison type of thing because for sure I believe one of these running backs is going to do it. I feel like the best one is Pollard just because we know he breaks the bigger runs. And I feel like Houston has a problem with like missing tackles. And I feel like somebody that's going to make them miss tackles is probably Pollard more likely than Zeke. And if he missed tackle on Pollard, he's gone for 50, 60-yard running, a touchdown in. So you're looking at instant 12 points on something like that. And then not counting that, like I said, if he gets the 100-yard bonus in this game, then you're looking at easily 20-something points fantasy. And if he can score one more time, but it seems like they'll give, that second attempt to like Zeke just to make sure he has a good game. So like I said, you can almost kind of go either way. Last game, they both basically had a decent game, looking at 24 points there. And then looking at almost near 20 points here for Zeke. So I believe something like that is in play again. On the other side, I don't really want anything at all from this game. I feel like there's nothing that we need. If anything, I feel like Dallas defense is going to be in play. Because every week for the last 2 weeks since they put the Kyle Allen quarterback for Houston, he's given up plus 15 points to the defense. So definitely it's going to be hard not to have the Cowboys defense this weekend. So then besides that, like if you want to take a shot at CeeDee Lamb, you can. It's just Houston, like I said, is a really tough team to even pass the ball against anyway. So, but he's probably has the best shot to do anything. And looks like we got Minnesota, Dallas here, the best game on the slate, man. I believe almost every receiver is probably in play in this game. We're looking at 40 fantasy points each side given up. So completion percent is higher for which quarterback is it for? Let me see make sure real quick. Looks like I got Vikings, okay. And then So Lions have the better completion percent to go against. So basically, their receivers have a better chance of hitting for you, which leads to Goff being probably one of the best stacks. Then, so St. Brown, Jamison Williams, first game back, just getting in the feel of things, but his route running was very crisp to be his first game back on the football field. If he can get more targets, he can probably possibly hit this weekend. But if not, I would rather just go with Chart, kind of wait and see, but it sucks to be on a wait and see because when you wait and see, man, the C can happen. And Jameson Williams could hit. You know what I mean? Like that can really happen. But it's only a second game back. Kind of feel like maybe the third game is where he really hits. I'll probably take more shots at him there. I probably have very few shots on him this weekend. I think Chark is definitely it opens up Chark being Jameson Williams is out there because basically now you have Amon St. Brown and Jameson Williams, great route running receivers who's going to require attention, man. Like period, you can't just leave Jameson one on one and he's going deep down the field, man, because he's probably gonna be wide open. Really, he has that crisp route running, the same thing as with St. Brown, but he's even faster. So I feel like all that does is open up one-on-one opportunities for Chark now in a game like this, which is a big, game where they're going to go down the field easily, I feel like, against Minnesota because Minnesota has given up a lot of yards. What they do well is kind of stop people from scoring touchdowns. But rivalries, I feel like things change. Like the part of the stopping them in the touchdown part, I don't think that's going to happen. I think Detroit is going to score. And they're being at home, too, where they score most of their points at. So Minnesota on the other side, definitely completion percent is pretty, like mid pack, So I definitely think Jefferson can have a good game, but it's just Detroit does show up really strong in the first half, which is when Jefferson actually scores most of his touchdowns. He's a first half scorer. So, and after that, it feels like most teams kind of double him the rest of the game and he kind of slows down. So if you want to hit on him, you probably want to hit on him early. And it's just crazy because in this game, it's hard because of the fact Detroit plays so hard defensively early in the game. And, second half is where it's at. So it makes me feel that somebody like a Thielen, who did well the last time, could hit for this week. As you see right here, 18 points the last time on 8 targets and a touchdown and stuff like that. So definitely feel like somebody like Thielen. Of course, we know Hawkinson on the other side. I feel like going against his old team, last, time he's played in Detroit, 42.9 fantasy points. I feel like, so we know what he can do, man. We know going against his old team for the first time, no, but just saying like he's played in Detroit, he knows, it's not going to be, him really playing on the road team. He's going to probably feel like he's playing at home still, even though he's going to get some boos, I'm sure, but definitely feel like he's in for a good game as well as like a Thielen, like I said, because I feel like those are type of players that probably show up in the second half when Detroit kind of lets up like they always seem to do because they just play too fast. Like I said earlier in the season, they play too fast for their own good. They allow teams to come back and put up a lot of fantasy points in one half too at that. So definitely this is a huge game for both sides, quarterback, both sides, receiving options and stuff like that. If you want to still take, some of the running backs here because these teams will get to the goal line multiple times, I don't mind it. It was good to see Swift have the most carries he's had since week 1 down here, 15 carries, y'all. So that was really good. It's going to make it a lot harder for the Vikings to stop Detroit this weekend if Swift is really going to be used a lot more because he's still used in the past 6 and 8 targets and things like that. So it's going to make it really difficult for them to stop the Detroit Lions from scoring. But let's see. So then the next game we have is Philly and the Giants, man. Another rivalry game. Tough game here where I feel like the run game is going to be where it's at. Whichever team establishes the run is probably going to win this game and probably get the most fantasy points is probably going to be in the run. Sanders, I feel like, is probably in a good spot. We know the Giants have given up fantasy points to running back. And I just feel like being that they have such a good quarterback that rushes the ball and you're going to have to keep your eyes on him. It's going to be so hard when they run that RPO option to stop Sanders. Compared to, I know, Daniel Jones does run the ball too, but he's just not as good as Hurts, and not as feared too as to run the ball, even though we know he rushes in touchdowns, stuff like that, but he actually feels like Hurts Barkley a lot more than I feel like what Hurts would do for Sanders. I feel like when they get to the goal line, they kind of do go to Sanders. and stuff like that. So I feel like he can probably get a goal line touchdown, possibly run near 100 yards on them too as well. So I feel like Sanders is where it's at. If you want to hit on some of these receivers, you could take a shot at AJ Brown coming off one of his biggest games, of course, but he had a lot of motivation behind that game. I don't know what's the motivation in this game, if he's going to be able to play that great. I kind of feel like somebody like a Devontae Smith might be a better option on it in this game. And let's see. So receivers wise on the Giants side, I don't really want to take a shot at them. Eagles and Giants both are high in completion percent. They're top 5, both of them. So not really giving up any much in the pass here. So Baltimore and Pittsburgh game, another rivalry. It's just a whole bunch of rivalries. It's gonna be a lot of tough games this weekend. So you gotta kind of get a feel of where do you think I feel like the team's gonna be able to establish the run. I feel like because that's going to open up, the deep passes in this game because a lot of these games are just tough matchups. So you kind of got to figure out which team's going to establish the run very well, because it's going to set up, one-on-one matchups for those receivers to hit on. So, but right here we got Baltimore and Pittsburgh. Quarterback probably is not going to be able to play as Lamar Jackson this weekend. And so we're going to probably have to go with Huntley. Man, I'm trying to think because Pittsburgh 7th in completion percent, so they're really high, top 10, in completion percent. But we do know they give up high fantasy points to receivers. So I do feel like Demarcus Robinson is in play, and I believe he's really cheap still. Yeah, $4,000, Demarcus Robinson, coming off of 8 targets, man. So, you kind of got to go since the completion percent is very tough, and stuff like that to complete passes. You got to go to the best players. Demarcus Robinson, Andrews. And even somebody like a Likely, since they use their tight ends like they're slot receivers, basically. They don't use them like they're just tight ends. They're slot receivers and tight ends. So Likely, Andrews, Demarcus Robinson, all in play for big games here. If they can get the passes, completed to these players, and they're gonna get the volume, that for sure. Plus, at least with Andrews and Likely, they're looked at for the touchdown. So definitely taking a shot there. I don't mind. On the other side here, completion percent is a lot higher. We're talking about, probably top 10 on the other side of being the worst, when it comes to completion percent for Baltimore. So it puts Pickens and Deontay Johnson in play. If Pickett can finally just get the ball to these cats, man, like it's just crazy to think that he threw 2 targets over to Pickens, and he played for Georgia, goes to Georgia to play Atlanta, and you toss him the ball 2 times. He was really mad. It even talks about it here that he was frustrated a little bit. So Deontay Johnson being banged up, we got to see if he's going to end up playing or not. If he doesn't play, then Pickens is probably in for a huge game with a lot of targets. Freiermuth is also in play too as well since completion percent is high. I feel like, something like, Deontay Johnson, Pickens, Freiermuth are all going to be in play then when it comes to that. Probably the best plays in that game. I would say Pickens would be number 1, but Deontay Johnson seems to keep getting the for sure targets. So you got to go with him. The only thing I don't like about him is he just drops so much stuff. It doesn't even matter. Completion percent was high against the Falcons, and it was a lot of drop passes, 11 attempts, and then he catches 5 of them. It's like, throw to Pickens, because when you throw to Pickens, he catches most of his catches, so or his targets. So I would just continue to just throw everything to him and Freiermuth. But besides that, running, I don't really want any other running backs really for that game. It's gonna be a tough game for the running backs. I feel that. Let's see. Let's just make sure though. Believe it is a tough game for both running backs there. Yeah, it looks like definitely for the Steelers side it's tough, and for the Ravens, yeah, both sides is really tough to run against. So neither running backs feel like it's gonna be in play there. We got Jacksonville and Tennessee though here next. We know Tennessee has given up fantasy points to receivers, even though completion percent, I believe, is kind of low here too as well. Let me see. So we got the Jags. Yeah, 13th in completion percent. So kind of needs to go to your best player. So Christian Kirk definitely can get off because, they rely on him, and pretty good contested catcher and stuff like that. So definitely he's in play for those big fantasy points for that game. If Treylon Burks was able to go, he would be in a huge spot right here. It just sucks he got a concussion. But if he's able to go, the best receivers have gone off on Jacksonville every time. So if he's going to get those targets that we've seen him coming off of the 2 weeks before he just got hurt, when we was looking at 6 and 8 targets, he was going off for 17 to 21 fantasy points. He could be in play if he's able to go and is healthy and everything for a nice 20 something fantasy points here. So best play would be them. Definitely, I would say Henry is going to be in play. Getting a savings here too for 7,900. I believe he's been over 8,000 almost the whole season. So against a rivalry at home, I think, Henry's probably in for a big game there. Besides that, Trevor Lawrence on the other side at quarterback, I feel like is in for a good game. Long as he's healthy and able to go, stacking him with him or him with I would say the receiver in Kirk, but also as well as I think Evan Ingram would be in play too as well. So a stack there, I wouldn't mind that for best plays. And looks like we have for the next game here, Kansas City. What's going on with? I saw earlier Pat Mahomes' foot was practice persistent. Okay, so he's good to go now. It looks like he had a bruised foot. Okay, so Pat Mahomes always gonna be in play. On the road, tough defense to play against though. Completion percent is very very low here. We're looking at sixth in completion, so top 10 defense when it comes to completion percents. Pat Mahomes is going to need to probably go to his best players. Juju, I feel like, and as well as Kelsey are probably the best plays here for him. If they can get down the field multiple times to score, I think something like a Pacheco could be in play too with the run. Like I said, it's a lot of these games, since they're rivalries, it's really going to be like these running backs are going to be huge in play, man. Huge in play, man. Because if you're able to get any little run, the team that usually has the better run game against their rivalry usually always has the better passing day too as well. So that's what I'm saying. Like if you think like, Pat Mahomes is getting it going with, I would say Pacheco is able to run good, then I believe, somebody like a Juju or Kelsey can hit, easily, because it should open up that with the linebackers coming up close, playing too close to the line and them getting behind those linebackers and creating big plays for those two. So definitely, Pat Mahomes is always going to be in play, man, to take a stack with him, Juju, and Kelsey and stuff like that. But Pacheco, I think, is also in play. I don't think we want anything on the other side for Denver, but if somehow Sutton isn't able to go for this game, which he's doubtful right now, so it looks like he's probably not. Judy is, if he's healthy and able to play this game, is going to be in for a lot of targets. So I mean, going against one of the weakest defense when it comes to completion percent, we're talking about 24th in the league, so top 10 and worst, you know what I'm saying, in the league there. So definitely Judy would be in play. If not, then we're going to open up some crazy value receiving options. Hamler's not even able to go, so Hinton will probably be a crazy value play. But if not that, then I would think Dolchich is also going to be a huge play there. And let's see. So next game we have here is Tampa and the San Francisco 49ers. Man, seeing Brady struggle the way he struggled, man, and thinking that, you're just going against another same style defense with the 49ers that the Saints play, and one of the toughest defense in the league. It makes me feel that Brady's going to have a hard time again. And 49ers defense could be in play here, being that 19th in completion percent, so not the best completion percent. It's just that who's making plays over here for Brady? Like, he has no speed at receivers. He goes to everybody a lot. It's just that they're not really separating themselves from anybody. Godwin to me is the best play here though, just because he consistently just gets the targets, and he finally hit, just a week ago, and like I say, it's all about, if somebody's going to keep getting 13 targets, basically, it's all about them just hitting early for you. If they can just hit on the first drive, which Brady went down the field on the first drive, like 15 plays, and then just got a freaking field goal. So it's like, the game before though, he goes down, to Cleveland and stuff, and was able to score on like the first drive to Godwin. And it's like I tell you, like, if that player hits early for you, it's so great, because you still, even if they go down a 15 play drive and 4 targets was to Godwin, and he scores a touchdown, then you still looking at 9 more targets though that's coming for him possibly in the game. And so he's probably going to hit for you for a 32 or 20 something easily fantasy points. So that's why I say he's still definitely the best play for this game. I also would say, White on the running back, because he continues to get work, continues to get, the passing, and, finally came through too with a touchdown in the passing. So I definitely feel like that's the side too as well. Completion percent is also very low, for the Bucks. So throwing against the Bucks is usually pretty hard, but they did have a lot of injuries, just last weekend and stuff like that with their. So when I say the slot cornerback, I know, and I believe some of the safeties were out too as well. So I feel like they will be able to be attacked down the field. I don't. I actually kind of have some belief in Brock Purdy this weekend. I feel like he could be a sneaky option because of the fact if those safeties and cornerbacks are still out, we saw. I want to say Andy Dalton throw some dimes and people just dropped them. And Chris Olave, and then I want to say it was the tight end I think Trotman, and also I believe and then also down the field when he threw the bomb straight down the middle to Taysom Hill, and he dropped it. So it was passes able to be completed. And I feel like they just didn't have the receivers that like the 49ers had. The 49ers are one of the best like receivers that I've seen, period. Even to tight end, that they catch contested catches very well, and they're used to taking hits. They're a big yards after the catch team anyways. So somebody like a Debo in the middle of the field, you throwing last game, if you go look, the targets that he had, 10 targets with Brock Purdy coming in. So him having 10 targets, you go look at Ayuk, 9 targets to Ayuk. The lowest amount of targets here was to Kittle here, which I think he only had like 2 or 3. So 2 or 3 there to Kittle. But all these weapons that they have, and then you still have McCaffrey, and he had 10 targets, y'all. So like that's why I'm like Brock Purdy is actually in play, y'all. Like he's in play. Like I think sneaky option there, man. And all his receivers, from at least definitely I know people that's gonna attack the middle of the field, and that's like a McCaffrey to Debo at 6,100 here. But if he's able to complete those passes to them too, and they're great yards after the catch players, it's going to open up a Ute for one-on-one coverage, and those safeties weren't playing too well that came in that were having to play for the ones that was hurt last game. I think somebody like even a Ute can hit. If not, like I said, if Debo doesn't hit, in the middle of the field, I still feel like McCaffrey does, and then it might be Kittle instead. So Brock Purdy, man, he's in play. Like the best run back to me in this game would have to be Godwin, maybe White. Mike Evans, just I don't know. I don't know what's been going on with him. And then Brady was missing a lot of targets though too. Though he overthrew. I would say for 4,000 down here, he overthrew Julio Jones. Julio Jones did come through with a big catch later in that game. But he missed Julio on probably like 250-yard plays that I seen. And probably missed about maybe at least one to Mike Evans. The one that he got a pass interference on, I don't know. I feel like Mike Evans doesn't even put the effort. He just acts like he, is getting pass interference every time down the field. Every game he does that same thing. Instead of just actually going up and trying to catch the ball. So he never comes through for us because he doesn't catch the ball. Instead, he just, I'm getting pass interference on. You're like 6'4", 6'5", and stuff like that. Like, go up and grab that and moss that and get us a touchdown. Like in this last game, he was literally on the 1-yard line when he could have just jumped and probably caught that. But instead, it's like he doesn't want to get hurt or something like that. It feels like he's not trying to come down hard off of catching a Moss catch like that on anybody anymore. Because I do notice that they be out there just kind of playing through injuries. It feels like for Brady, they put it all. They go so hard for Brady. Like Godwin and Evans, I noticed they be looking like they're limping off the field. They come right back on the field for Brady, but unless they get super, just really hurt like Godwin did last season, where he literally tore, I think, his ACL or something like that. So, but Godwin's probably the best play still in this, as a run back here. Like I said, Brock Purdy, don't sleep on him because I feel like he's probably in play to have a good game because he literally goes against at practice one of the best defenses, So it's not going to be like the most craziest thing, him playing a tough defense, and then you got such great reliable targets. And I know this is a late game, so it really does matter, man. Like trying to figure out who you're going to want fantasy points from. This one right here feels like where it's probably going to be somebody big. It's going to get a lot of fantasy points in this game. So I just want to say that because, some plays here is, I feel like Debo, McCaffrey, it's just great fantasy options there as well as on the other side too as well though. Like I said, Evans could possibly come through. He just hasn't recently, and at least you just know that Godwin and White though so far have been getting reliable targets and amount of targets every week. So definitely feel like those are the two best options. And it looks like we got the last game here, Carolina and Seattle. It if Kenneth Walker was able to go, he'd probably be a good spot. But on the other side, Foreman is a great spot. At receiver, though, I feel like Lockett is probably in the best spot here. And then it looks like we got DJ Moore on the other side because long as Sam Darnold is playing, that's his favorite go-to weapon. He went to him the first 5 weeks last season about 12 times average, it felt like, targets he was getting to DJ Moore. So I definitely feel like DJ Moore is going to be in play here. At tight end, I don't really know if you want to take these tight ends. They're definitely, it sucks because we know Seahawks are really bad at tight ends, but they don't really have a tight end to go to. If you want to take a shot at one of those low, they're probably 2,700 Ian Thomas and stuff like that, and Tremblay and stuff at 2,600. This is like the second worst team in fantasy points. With the Seahawks to tight end, but it's just so hard to take one of those tight ends. Noah Fant. Definitely still in play, man. I feel like he keeps consistently just getting targets. You never know if he's going to go off or anything like that, but definitely he's consistent with at least getting the targets for this team. I don't know why it's going to take us so long. Yeah, so like 3 targets, got a touchdown last week in a tough matchup against a rivalry. So yeah, definitely in play there. But let's see. Okay, so let's go through real quick the top fives. I'm gonna start with the tight end since we already here. It looks like I said, since we can't, we got to eliminate the Seahawks game since no tight end is really a good tight end there, to take for sure. But it looks like it's going to be Hawkinson at number 1 this week, going against his old team in a great spot. A lot of fantasy points given up to tight ends there. At number 2, though, it looks like I got Kittle. It's going to be a good spot for him if he's getting targets. His targets might actually go up a little bit more with the other quarterback. So, he might be in for about 5 targets with the other quarterback starting a full game, and has a good spot, man, because you need to attack the middle of the field, and that's where Kittle likes to run most of his routes, when he actually runs routes and is not blocking. Besides that, it looks like we got Schultz in a good spot here for probably about, what do we got, like 11 or some fantasy points. About 12 fantasy points there. So definitely shows he's always in play for the offensive scheme and things like that. Besides that, it looks like we got Evan Ingram in a great spot here, so he would be number 4. The only thing, he's so inconsistent with the targets, man. Every time he gets a lot of targets, he hits, basically. And it just sucks because then we get games where we got 2 and 4 and 1. But then every game is 6, 7, 6, 10. He's hitting most of those games. So it's like, can we just consistently get the 7 targets every time? Because he's a great spot, especially he's going to be so cheap every time. So Evan Ingram, and then I would say the last one to me, would be like a Dolchich would be, in play, especially with the weapons that Russell is not going to have. Dolchich seems to be the most healthiest weapon he has going against a rivalry at home. I really like Dolchich too in that spot. So then at wide receiver, let's go. So we know the Detroit game is a great spot for both receivers. But the highest amount of fantasy points given up is the Steelers. So it's actually supposed to be $4,000 at number 1 would be Demarcus Robinson, y'all, just because the most fantasy points is there. Even though we do know, like I said, the tight ends are their receivers. So if you want to say it's Andrews, guess you could say that. But it's wide receivers where the cornerbacks are actually sticking, those players and giving up those fantasy points too. So Demarcus Robinson is going to get, 8 to, maybe possibly 10 targets in this game, with Huntley probably starting. He's in for a big game then, because there's a lot of fantasy points that Pittsburgh has given up there. And then it's going to definitely go to Jefferson at number 2. Getting the targets that he gets every game consistently. A lot of fantasy points given up, about 40 fantasy points for Detroit there. So Jefferson is in play for a huge game. And then we got, not Diggs, my bad, y'all, St. Brown here. Getting double digit, targets every game. Fantasy points has been very high back to back, near almost near 40 last game, but 30. So before that, he got hurt in the last time they played Minnesota. And it's still, 6 for 9, 73, so close to, getting to 100 yards. But this game, if he could just stay out of being injured, getting injured in this game, I expect a big game for him. So number 3 there. At number 4 though this week, let's see who we got. It looks like Christian Kirk. Ain't you in there? Yeah, so it would be Christian Kirk, y'all. Number 4 here. We already know how great a receiver he is. We know the targets is there for him as well. Hopefully, Trevor Lawrence is able to go, because it would definitely be him, man, for a huge game there at 66. And then at number 5, we have to go with Garrett Wilson, man. Buffalo has been giving up fantasy points to receivers, especially route running receivers that get the ball a lot too, or targeted a lot. Like the way Garrett Wilson is, he's definitely proven, and he's shown it just last week. 27 back-to-back weeks, 27 fantasy points basically. So, and last time he even played, Buffalo had a decent game. With a different quarterback, but even with Zach Wilson, I believe played that game, he still was able to get it done. So definitely with Mike White, I feel like he definitely should have a pretty decent game against Buffalo. So that's it for the receiver. At running back this week, we already know starts off with number 1 Pollard. But possibly, like I said, it's Pollard / Zeke, since they both kind of run equally amount opportunities, but Zeke kind of gets the goal line rush attempts. So equally amount there. And then I would say at number 2 this week, though, it looks like it's going to be Deontay Foreman. If he's able to go and it's not going to be questionable, it'll be Deontay Foreman. So definitely been, I know it's sad because, like, he has games where he can, get 24 touches, gets 14, 31 touches, 22, but then he has games where he gets 11 and 7 and it gets you 2 and 4. So it's hit and miss, but this one could be a hit, if they're able to establish the run the right way and don't stop running the ball. They have to be able to just stay in this game, though. That's the only thing. So, because if Seattle gets up big, they probably will let go of the run real quick. So that would be the only reason why I feel like he wouldn't hit. But let's see. So next up at running back, though, looks like how many fantasy points we got? What's the next biggest one? Man, looks like I got... Okay, so the Bengals running back, y'all. Bengals running back. So definitely Samaje Perine or Mixon, whichever one is going to really play, is definitely in for a big game at home too, against a rivalry. Cleveland has given up a lot of fantasy points to running back there. Then we got next up here, looks like it's going to be the most fantasy points I'll see is going to, if Kenneth Walker was able to go, it would be him. So I don't know if he's going to be able to play. I thought I read something that he's probably more leaning towards being doubtful to play, but it would be him. So, and if not, it's going to have to be the backup for Seattle then. And then it looks like we have, so I think we're on the last one here. Last running back here will have to come from which game? It looks like it's going to be Latavius Murray is in for a decent amount of fantasy points there, but as well as I would say Jamal Williams or Swift. So, like I said, we saw the last time Swift got way more touches than we've seen with the 14. So they're definitely both in play. But the last time I think Jamal went for almost 30 fantasy points against Minnesota. Yeah, so 25 fantasy points basically right there. It's really on who's going to get, the rush attempts, because they're definitely in play. And I do feel like Detroit is going to get to the goal line a few times in this game at least. So definitely Jamal Williams or Swift could be in play for that last spot there for running back. At quarterback, man, it looks like definitely, I believe, the highest amount of fantasy points at quarterback is coming from Detroit game, right? So it looks like Kirk Cousins is supposed to be first this week. Second would probably be Goff then. And then we're looking at, after Goff, we're looking at it to be, let's see, the next biggest fantasy point. Looks like we got Trevor Lawrence, I think. Oh, my bad. Didn't mean to put Geno there. Looks like we got Trevor Lawrence. So definitely he's going to be in play. And then it looks like we have Huntley. So at 4 will be Huntley. And we've seen him have decent games before when he had to fill in for Lamar Jackson. If Lamar Jackson's able to go, then it's Lamar. But, Tyler Huntley will be in play then. And then the last play here would be 20. Let's see, another 20 fantasy points anywhere else. So it looks like, oh my God, the worst, I feel like some of the worst two last quarterbacks here. But it's a kind of a tie with Tannehill and then Russell Wilson will be the last in that top 5, y'all. So I hope y'all enjoyed that, man. Try to knock out everything in one right here, man, since I am still traveling and everything for set and stuff like that, y'all. But still trying to knock out these videos for y'all so y'all can win this big money and have y'all best shot, at doing that. We're giving y'all the best notes, man, and fantasy, options and stuff like that, man. It's your boy Jay Star, though, man. I hope y'all enjoy, the week and the weekend and win that big money. It's your boy. I'm out. Peace, y'all.